Hey there. We are doing another Ask Me Anything. It is our book launch party. And for some reason, Facebook's not letting me do a direct Facebook Live. So hopefully you guys can see here. I'm just going to refresh this and make sure that everything's showing up right. So go ahead. If you have questions you want me to answer, leave them in the comments and I'll get to those. And yep, there it is. So hopefully you guys will be seeing this and adding your questions, and stick around because at the end I have some really nice covers of upcoming projects that I want to share with you. So Kim has been great and has included quite a few questions. So we have quite a bit to jump in and start with. So how did you decide to move to Alaska? It's a really long, complicated story, but we've been here for about 11 years. Our oldest boy was just 6 months old at the time. And Scott and I had been planning to become missionaries to Russia. And we decided that we needed a little bit of extra training. So Alaska Bible College was out here. And we thought that getting used to the cold and things like that in Alaska, where at least people still spoke the same language that we did, would be a nice stepping stone. So this was sort of seen as our stepping stone before we moved to Russia. And super long story made short, we had another boy, Silas, who had a lot of medical issues that kept us from going on to the mission field. But we loved Alaska so much that we have stayed here ever since. Another question is, what inspired you to start writing the Kennedy Stern series? So actually, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to move over just a touch. These are my North Korea books. And starting in Slave Again, book 2 in my North Korea series, there is a missionary couple who are helping refugees who come out of North Korea and cross the border into China. And that couple had a daughter who just went off to college. And so I was writing Slave Again about this missionary couple and their daughter, you know, they kept bringing up their daughter, you know, like Kennedy sent her mom an email, or her mom was really struggling with the empty nest syndrome and stuff like that. And I also knew that the North Korea books are so heavy. They're heavy for me to write and they're heavy for readers to read. So I thought it might be fun to do something that was a little lighter, which I laugh at now because if you read any of the Kennedy books, you know, they touch on some really heavy subjects, but still, I do feel like they're easier reading than the North Korea books, which are very, very heavy. And it's been really fun. So there's actually quite a bit of overlap. So for those of you who have gotten past book 3 or 4 in the Kennedy series, you know who Woong is, the little boy that Carla and Sandy adopt. And he's actually the main character in the 4th book of my North Korea series, Flowers Follow. So there's actually quite a bit of overlap. Have you ever had writer's block? Yeah, it's... You know, there's a couple different ways to look at writer's block. There's just, oh, I don't really feel like writing today. And I don't really call that writer's block. What I call writer's block, which I have experienced, is like a true block in every sense of the word. Just the words aren't there. It doesn't have to do with whether or not you feel like writing. I'm actually just coming out of a couple weeks. I know it was probably a little bit health related. I just got a really bad cold and just wasn't feeling like myself. But yes, I have had a couple pretty bad bouts of writer's block. I would say one of the worst, it was right when we moved from Anchorage to where we are now. And it was just, it was an exciting move, but it was stressful. We had been in Anchorage for maybe 6 years by then. And it took me about 6 weeks before I could write fiction. Some of that had to do with not feeling like I was in my own space, and I'm kind of a baby. Like if I'm not in the best of moods or if I feel real stressed, it's really hard for me to write. So that was probably the worst time. And this bout that I just got over now was maybe 2 weeks tops. Usually it's like if I just get stuck on a plot point, which does happen pretty regularly, you know, I can just switch, like maybe work on something else, maybe work on editing, things like that. But a blocks, like I can't work at all. And that is a really hard thing to deal with. Do I ever feel blocked in my prayer life? Just a sec. You guys hardly ever see me drink soda. I'm usually drinking tea or coffee. But I just feel the need to point out this is like supposedly some super healthy, calorie-free, caffeine-free, blah, blah, blah. Not that it matters. I'm not a soda drinker, though. Blocked in my prayer life. Yeah, so I don't know. I think the whole season that I just came out of, like those 2 weeks I was talking about, like I did feel blocked in my prayers too. It could be like a depression kind of thing. There's so many reasons that people can feel blocked in their prayers. And now that you bring it up, I think that'd be a really good prevailing prayer podcast episode. So thank you for that idea. I don't know how to overcome that other than maybe asking others to pray with you or maybe praying out loud with others. Those would probably be just off the top of my head, the two first things I'd recommend. So now we have some more Alaska questions. Do I have any pictures of the Northern Lights? No, we don't have any fancy cameras or anything. And I've tried it on the cell phone. It doesn't do anything. But they are pretty. I've seen some really pretty Northern Lights. How far is our nearest neighbor? Not super far. Like we can hear their dogs and stuff. But the town we live in, like it is very spread out. Like you can't see people's houses because everyone lives pretty far back. What do I enjoy most about living in rural Alaska? I like that it's not so busy. Once we moved out of Anchorage, like I said, I had those 6 weeks that were almost impossible to write. But once I got into the rhythm here, I find that it's actually easier to write here just because there's less things taking up my attention, which I do appreciate. The most expensive part of living here probably would be if you have to get medevac. So if you have any serious kind of medical thing, they're going to have to fly you out of here, and that can be crazy expensive. Although there is pretty reasonably priced insurance that you can buy in that sort of event that will cover specifically the medevac. The other stuff, I mean, yeah, it's expensive out here, but we're just kind of used to it, and we just know that that's how it is. Heating your house is a really big deal. So a lot of people use wood stoves. So you either have to buy the wood or, obviously work really hard to prepare all that wood yourself. Or if you're using oil, that's quite expensive too. In the summer, how warm does it get? So this is funny because earlier in the group, someone said their favorite thing about fall was no longer having like over 100-degree weather. I haven't seen 100 degrees in decades. So I grew up in California. We would, very regularly get over 100 there. But hottest it gets here is maybe 80, and that's really abnormal. When we were in Anchorage, it was 70 was really hot. We actually laughed because there was one summer that it was a record-breaking summer because it was something like there were 7 days over 70. So Anchorage is a little cooler in the summer, but also warmer in the winter. So Anchorage, we would sometimes dip below 0, but here we regularly get to like 30 or 40 below. Let me see if there are any other questions. It's going to take me just a second. And if not, I'm going to show you guys my covers and tell you about some of my new projects, which I'm excited about. So I don't see any, but if I did forget you, I'm sorry about that. But let me come over here real quick. I just need to figure out how to do my screen share. Okay, I think I have it figured out. My entire screen share. Hopefully you guys can see this. So I'm going to make me little. So this is the cover of my newest Kennedy book. So this will be out, I forget if it's November or December. But Secluded, I'm really excited about because this is entirely Alaska-based. So if you read Turbulence, that kind of takes place when Kennedy is on her way to Alaska to spend Christmas with her roommate. This happens a year later, and this is entirely like from the time she gets off the plane in Alaska. And honestly, I think this one is probably the closest to being like in a thriller category. Like I don't write thrillers, but just the things that happen in it, like there's a lot of people saying the world's going to end at the winter solstice and all kinds of crazy stuff happens. So I'm excited about that. You may have already seen this cover. There are 2 others, though, I want to show you that I don't know if you have seen. So this one, I doubt, this one hasn't been online anywhere. So this is brand new to all of you that you're seeing. And I am really excited about this one. This is a romance, and it is going to be coming out before too long. So I will keep you guys posted about this one. Dare to Dream Again. I think the cover's really pretty. And then I have one more romance cover to show you. This romance is based off the story of how my husband and I met. So I am really excited for this one to come out. It's on pre-order right now for 99 cents if you want to grab it, because the price is going to be going up. I never really considered myself to like become a romance author, and I still plan on being primarily suspense like I have been, but I really wanted to share this story. It's not exactly, you know, like word for word what happened between my husband and me, but it's pretty close. And the other really fun thing is, as of now, he still doesn't know, like he knows that there's a romance, he knows the title, but unless he maybe went to my website, which I don't, you know, he may have, and he hasn't said it because he knows that I want to keep it a surprise, but I don't think he knows yet. So I'm trying to keep it a surprise, at least until I get the paperback out, so I have something to actually show him. I was going to make it a Christmas gift, but I am almost positive this price isn't going to last that long, but I'm pretty excited about that. So those are some of the projects coming up, and we will say goodbye for now. And for those of you who are watching this live at the party, I'll see you over there in a minute.